You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
The latest upset that proves Trump's Volvo takeovers are beatable, based on an article by Thomas Kickup. The real fight is not Trump's mood, it's corporate capture. The polls that expose the machine. The New York Times story wants this to read like a morale lesson. Trump and the MAGA project are beatable if opposition coordinates, files lawsuits, and refuses to blink. Fine, but the actual event here is less inspirational than it is revealing. Paramount agreed to delay its acquisition of Warner Bros. Because 12 state attorneys general sued the merger. That is not a personality contest. It is a fight over who gets to control middle power, how quickly it can be concentrated, and whether public institutions will move before the deal is done. The source is useful because it accidentally shows the real terrain. The decisive actors are not commentators. They are not bot merchants. They are corporate owners, state attorneys general, unions, and the wealthy Trump backer David Ellison, whose takeover of Paramount in 2025 has already pushed CBS toward MAGA friendliness and damaged its credibility. Who holds power? The power sits with the people who can approve, delay, finance, or litigate a murder. Ellison now has control over Paramount and by extension the leverage to reshape its outlets and priorities. Paramount and Warner Bros. Are not abstract cultural brands. They are assets in a consolidation battle. The outcome matters because it determines who gets to decide what gets produced, what gets cut, and what editorial line becomes normal. The attorneys general matter because they are among the few institutions willing to use state power against corporate concentration. That is the only reason the murderer paused. The article dresses this up as a lesson in resistance, but the more accurate lesson is that concentrated private power is only constrained when public officials actually use their authority. Everything else is commentary. The misdirection is the point. The Times framing leans hard on Trump as the central antagonist, which is convenient but incomplete. Trump is not personally negotiating this merger. Ellison is, Paramount is, Warner Bros. Is. The harm here is not some vague moral atmosphere breathed into the industry. It is ownership change with political consequences attached. That distinction matters. When CBS shifts to become more Trump and MAGA friendly under Ellison, that is not confusion or incidental drift. It is managerial alignment. When critics worry CNN could face the same fate, that is not paranoia. It is a predictable result of putting news outlets inside a corporate structure controlled by a billionaire with a clear political affinity. The article's language about credibility in threefold gets close, but not close enough. What is collapsing is not credibility in the abstract. It is the notion that these institutions are insulated from owner politics once the ownership class changes. Resistance arrived late. One of the sharper details in the source is also one of the ugliest as SAG-AFTRA only voted to oppose the merger after Paramount announced its goals. That is how much a delayed resistance works in practice. People wait until the risk is lower, the momentum is visible, or the corporate side has already been forced to slow down. That does not mean the union's move is meaningless. It means pressure becomes legible only after somebody else proves the cause of silence. Mark Ruffalo's point related in their article is straightforward. If you get caught, you lose. If you fight, you have a chance. The problem is that too many institutions in Hollywood have been optimized for accommodation, not confrontation. They discover courage when a lawsuit makes it cheap. The cost of delay is the leverage. The report says a delay on the next sum could cost Paramount around $2 billion in fees and could force a settlement that spins off CNN or includes job protections. That is the real mechanism of accountability here: money, time, and structural concessions, not branding, not op-eds, not someone concern. This is why the story matters beyond one merger. Corporate consolidation is often treated as a technical matter for regulators and executives, when in fact it is one of the central battlegrounds of political power. Whoever owns the channels owns the agenda-setting capacity. Whoever owns the newsroom can soften the line, narrow the frame, and recall authoritarian preference as ordinary business judgment. The larger pattern is simple. Authoritarian politics does not only operate through elections and speeches. It also moves through ownership consolidation and the quiet capture of cultural institutions by wealthy allies. The people with the most power rarely need to announce their project. They just buy the infrastructure that shifts perception. So the meaningful story here is not that Trump can be beatable in some general sense. It is that concentrated power can be delayed, exposed, and made expensive when opposing institutions stop acting like spectators. The lesson is narrower and harsher than the times once. Corporate media will not defend democracy on its own, and neither will wealthy insiders who discover principles only after a merger starts costing real money. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternate for today's article. With the automated voice of Diana, thanks for listening.